business.
Good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are watching us from. This is an edition that comes to you every Thursday between o'clock and 5 p.m. Today is another amazing edition. Well, at Fat Talks, if it's your first time to join us, one, it's a product of FLI, Fidelis Leadership Institute, where we are passionate about empowering leaders, ethical leaders for Africa to be able to be faithful, available, and teachable to take Africa to the next level. And that is where we get our word Fat Talks. Well, today, my name is Evelyn Osime and I'll be your host. I'm an FLI Fat Fellow, which means I'm part of the team that brings to you the trainings, the conversations, where we host leaders, thought leaders in any aspect of our different societies, communities. Today, we get a special edition that I'll bring to you in a short while. Welcome, call your neighbor, call your in-laws, your outlaws, your child. Let them join us for today's conversation because you're going to have an amazing time. Today we have a special guest. Before I get to that, I want us to remind ourselves on December, our focus for today. December is an HIV/AIDS awareness month. I don't know what you did in your community or in your corner or at your station to be able to bring that awareness to your space. But at Fat Talks, today we focus on that. Where are we at as a leadership institute or a community that develops leaders, a community that supports all manner of people around us? Where are we at when it comes to the subject of HIV/AIDS? And that is what we want to focus on today. 1st December, if you remember, or if your neighbor remembers, the World Health Organization was celebrating, commemorating, using that day to remember or to bring to our attention the global leaders, you and I, the aspects of what HIV and AIDS really brings to us in the world currently. Again, if you remember, if hopefully you took part of the celebrations at your different sphere, you remember that they were calling upon us, the leaders, to be able to look at championing the rights to health. They are calling upon leaders to champion the right to health. And of course, that includes the health in terms of those that are living with HIV and AIDS or AIDS. So today's edition, ladies and gentlemen, we have a guest speaker that gets to speak into that aspect that we bring to you at Fat Talks. Also, just for a matter of facts, did you know that last year, 2023, it was estimated that 39.9 million people are actually living with HIV globally. 39.9. Did you also know that about 630,000 people died of HIV-related causes in 2023, last year? Did you also know that an estimated 1.3 million have over time acquired HIV? And as of 2023, that was the statistics. So what is your role in this aspect, you and I? Where do we come in? What is our role? How are we supporting or partnering with the World Health Organization to make this a possibility for those that live with or those that have lost their loved ones in that aspect? Well, again, call your neighbor, call your person. Let's join into the conversation. There'll be a YouTube channel that you should be able to join this conversation with on comments and questions. And then let us know how you can, as a person, contribute to this conversation, but also to the awareness out there in your community but also to support those that are living with HIV. And also, your personal contribution is very key. So join us, call your neighbor. Yes, we thank Smart24 for having us on this, but also the YouTube channel is available for you to join us in the same conversation. So today, at Fat Talks, we have a theme that we want to bring to you that will break down this that we want to speak about. And that is transforming pain into purpose. So we have that month awareness. And now we are looking at how do we look at refocusing that into transforming pain into purpose. Also looking at the journey of resilience and hope. And the area of focus is living with HIV in our community. To break this down for us, ladies and gentlemen, we have an amazing guest. And yes, if you haven't called your neighbor or your son, please, this is the right time. They are on time. Our guest today, ladies and gentlemen, Madame Ruth. Really, it will take me a whole show to talk about her. But I'd like you to just join with me and welcome our guest today, Madame Ruth.
Thank you.
Welcome, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for
welcome
having me. It's quite an honor, actually.
Yeah.
Yes.
Welcome to Fat Talks. Well, you're one of those that we have had over the period in terms of ethical leaders, just like you've had, wow, thought leaders of the subject that we're just about to jump into. So it's an honor for me to host you on behalf of FLI and also Fat Talks.
Pleasure is mine too. Thank
You notice I just mentioned Ruth.
Yes.
I'm trying to just leave the viewers in the Ruth. Who is Ruth? Yeah, we want to know who Ruth is. I can easily just chip in a little bit, but I know you would do it so well. Then you can break it down.
So Ruth is, I wear a number of hats, but today the hat I'm wearing is for advocacy, HIV advocacy, and also mental health. I happen to be a young person who is living with HIV, and I practically turned my story into a manner of help. How can I impact? How can I hold people down? How can I grow people mentally? So I've done a number of things. I've volunteered with Reach a Hand Uganda as a peer educator. I've volunteered with the mentorship class as a coach, as a head coach. I was also there as a mentee. I've participated in a number of business competitions. That is Tony Edomeru Foundation. I've participated in the Stanbic Business Incubator. I've also participated in the Academy for Women Entrepreneurs. And I run an organization called Daria Kaitesi Safe Space, whose goal is purposely to help young people who are struggling and living with HIV. And I'm a former member of the National Youth Parliament. For 2 terms, I was serving there. And yeah, those are the things I can remember because I know I do too much. But
she does too much. But I like that today we get to focus on the aspect of living with HIV.
Yes.
What an honor for you to share with us the story.
Yes.
I feel like I need to celebrate you, which I should, which you should. Thank you for opening yourself to that level of, you know, sharing your story and impacting lives.
Thank you.
Wow, beautiful. So, I noticed in your earlier on, you do some architecture work.
Architecture.
Yeah.
Yes, I have a background in architecture. And pretty much, I would say the reason as to why I ended up even disclosing my HIV status.
Okay.
Yes, so I am a diploma holder.
Okay.
So, so I have a diploma in architecture for 2 years, and I have about 9 years of experience practicing. Yes, so and I'm currently pursuing my degree to be able to become a registered and qualified architect.
Okay.
Yes, so it turns out we have levels.
Inspiring.
I'm telling you.
Yes, inspiring. Wow,
Yes.
beautiful. So that would mean you had stopped at some point and then...
Yes, I, mostly because I couldn't afford the course at the time.
Okay.
So I had to take a break, work a bit while I figure out my next step, and then something came around and I was able to go back to school.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm interested in the area of what inspired you to get into sharing the story, opening it.
Oh yes. So I graduated from my diploma in 2015, and I worked between 2016 until I think I would say 2019 or 2020. And between those years, I was also trying to make sure that I get, that I acquire a scholarship to go back and upgrade. During that time, I kept applying in a number of Ugandan universities, but I was not getting in because, you know, the cutoff points were high, and we've all gone through that almost. So I could not qualify. So then I thought, okay, let me try find opportunities in other universities, probably outside of Africa or within Africa other than Uganda. So it's then I started to realize that the process isn't just about getting your ticket, your visa, and then you go study. That those people also want to know what disease are you probably carrying. So then I got to understand that, okay, these people want to know your HIV status, and some of them based on that, whether you should go forward or not. So I tried a number of things. I remember there was even an opportunity where I got 100% scholarship for a particular Asian country, but then the thing that couldn't allow me move forward was my HIV status. Some countries, though few people don't talk about this, a number of people don't talk about this. We have so many countries that don't entertain people living with HIV. And I remember when I came out at that time, people were thinking, well, you're lying. How can it be? You bring evidence, you bring proof. But the truth is, it's there. It's actually happening. So when I realized that my HIV status was the one standing in between me and my dream of becoming an architect, I was like, no, we are not allowing this to happen. Yeah. So I went ahead and I ended up having to disclose. And I remember my first story was published by a newspaper. And then that's how it went viral. Because then I knew I had to either sacrifice becoming an architect, or I go out of my way, tell the whole world that this is what is standing in my way. If you can help me, please do. And then get the help. So I chose coming out.
Beautiful, very inspiring. Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. So do you mind sharing with us where all this started, how the HIV thing came up? Was it?
It's funny how most people don't know my story, yet we live in an era of abundant information and internet. But I was born with HIV. So I've practically lived with HIV all my life. But of course, when I was in school, there were those young people I studied with who just assumed that I got it from probably sleeping around and doing all that. Yes, and I've basically had a childhood of being sick in and out of hospital. I've been treated for TB, that was in my primary 6. I was treated for ulcers, which came as a result of the fact that I had stopped swallowing my medicine at some point. Then at some point my CD4 count really went down, became very low. My viral load was really, really high. So I've lived with HIV all my life, and I've been a patient in hospitals for so long. Yes, until I stabilized, and now I could even go here without being admitted for anything. Yes.
So at that point, again, if you don't mind, along the journey, did you realize this was going to be a thing for you, dependent on drugs, or this is an illness or the condition? Right, having been born with it, was it something that was introduced to you, maybe through often always being ill, and then at one point someone is like, hey, this is what the problem is?
I've always been an ill child. I'll not lie to you. I was always an ill child. I was always falling sick. It's either malaria, or it was either skin rash, or there had to be something always. And I started to suspect that I had HIV when I was in P7, and I started to realize that, you know, in P7 you study science and you're told signs and symptoms of particular STIs, STDs. So I remember clearly TB being a sign of HIV. And I also clearly remember being treated for TB for quite a while. So it was around that area that I suspected that maybe I could be having HIV. But it's not something I took so seriously. Then I think in my senior 2, I fell sick, and I think that's when it became really undeniable that I had now to start medication. Yes, but then throughout my senior 1, I was swallowing Septrin. I think at the time, the Ministry of Health policy was that when you are tested positive, you start off by swallowing Septrin until you get to a point where you're supposed to start swallowing ARVs. So then a couple years down the road, that policy was changed. And now, once you're tested, you immediately start swallowing ARVs.
Oh, wow, it's quite a journey.
I know,
the
right?
rest is history, they say.
Quite, yeah,
Yeah.
quite. The rest
Wow.
is history.
So how has that been? How has that been like living with, you know, that kind of situation, and then especially amongst other people that you would literally not be suspicious of, you know? Usually, because a lot of times when we have certain diseases or there's a way, people just like that COVID taught us, you know? Every time you'd show up with a covered nose, people are like, hey, hey, you know? And then maybe through, I don't know if you went to boarding school or test school, people notice that you are in a certain regular kind of thing. I don't know, how was that experience like?
It wasn't
that?
easy.
Yeah.
It was not easy. You know, my laughter means that it hurts. Eh?
Yeah.
That's what I usually do. My laughter means it hurts. Because there are those memories that will just never go away.
Yeah.
Never.
And I think for the viewers, when we say the theme transforming pain into purpose, and you being able to share that pain, even when it hurts, even in this moment, we celebrate the fact that you've been able to turn that really still hurts, even as I can see, into an amazing purpose. I think, again,
so recently I have a friend I was hanging out with, and they made a comment that made me realize, oh, so that's what the world thinks of people who are living with HIV. Interesting. So this person was like, but Ruth, you have done advocacy for HIV for years. You've spoken about it. You're basically the face of courage. You mean you still get hurt when we talk about, when people talk about you like that? I'm like, wait.
Yeah.
So practically what you're trying to say is that I should mute my feelings because I've become accustomed to living with HIV. So I think people think that because I talk about HIV, I advocate for people living with it, and I've basically given that face of courage. People tend to think that you no longer hurt. No, she has already healed. Those things don't bother her anymore. It's just that as you grow older, you learn to package your feelings or your emotions, and nobody can actually tell what you're going through, because you turn up and look, you know, okay, you look fine, and nobody can at any one point assume that, oh, something I said hurt her. No, just because I've not shown you, it doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt. Yes. So basically living, you've asked that what has it been like living with HIV? It's
especially in terms of relating with friends, with those around you, how, of course, sometimes insensitive we can be, that kind of experience. And again, focusing on that is really trying to show the viewers how you've been able to turn all this into an amazing purpose, into an amazing thing, into you coming out to advocate and fight for people exactly just sharing the same pain.
It's been a painful journey. I must confess, sometimes I still do feel the pain. You'll never know, because of course pain doesn't come with a label on your forehead. But to this day I still experience a lot of stigma. And how can I say this, isolation from people who know us. I am surrounded by some, I would say to this day, I'm surrounded by a few people who feel that, oh, you're moving with Ruth, you be careful with her.
Oh dear.
You know, you get to hear your friends tell you things like, you're being friends with her, but be careful. So society is so rotten mentally to a point that once you're seen moving with a guy, or let's say now we are in an era where, you know, the other gender is also likable. People tend to think that, oh, if I see somebody moving with Ruth, I might as well warn them that be careful. So we are so, I would say, mentally rotten, because we rush to conclusions. And it's like you're now saying that because Ruth is HIV positive, she doesn't have a right to friends. She shouldn't have friends.
Yeah. Have a certain corner.
Exactly. So she should be isolated. She should be. And then, as a person who has very minimal tolerance for such mindsets, I just cut you off and I mind my business. And then you start to wonder, oh, she changed, oh, she doesn't talk to us anymore. I'm like, I know what you're doing. So I might as well give you distance, you know, mind my own business, let you be, let you think what you want to think. Yes, to also protect my mental health and, you know, find happiness. So you'll find that I would not say I have, generally I wouldn't say I have friends, but I would say that I have acquaintances. I'm very careful in that arena because when it comes to my HIV status, the people you least expect, and not just me, the people we least expect to be, you know, saying funny things about us in the background are the people who are making the most loudest noise. Yes, I am very careful around. Very. So I'm very careful who I call a friend. I am not just going around, just because I move with you, we talk often, we do stuff together, I will not say that you are a friend. I am careful who I call a friend. So that's why I say I have more acquaintances than friends. And I've also learned that sometimes keeping to yourself is a better solution. I spend most of my time alone. I will probably go a week without receiving phone calls or anything. Not that I can't, you know, initiate conversations or anything, but I've had enough.
Protecting you.
No, chimala. I would rather stick to my environment, the few people who understand me, who get me, and then work with those, rather than have like a bunch of, you know, a whole group of people who you call friends, but then are they actually friends?
Are they?
Yes. So stigma is still real, and then stigma does not only come from the people surrounding us, but mostly family as well.
Right.
And stigma from family is even the worst because most of them are rooting for you to fail. They are rooting for you not to succeed. They are rooting for you to, you know, kakuze karadde. So tetukasubira kyamanyi kola ki okavaamu. If I was to quote the words I've had growing up, oh, quite sad, you know. So when people see me do the things I do, I would say it's where I get my joy from. It's where I feel that I come alive. So I put my energy in things that make me feel alive, make me happy, rather than try to, you know, surround myself with people who don't get me. Yes. So it's not an easy journey in terms of also medication. People living with HIV struggle a lot with drug adherence. When I say drug adherence, I mean keeping up with swallowing medicine. We struggle so much with that. It is so hard to keep up with swallowing medicine every day, especially when you're stressed, especially if you have depression. So in most cases, our doctors advise us to set alarms to remind us to swallow. But even the alarm can go off and you switch it off and you still don't swallow the medicine. So speaking from experience, I realized that the days when I have so much peace and you know, I'm calm, that is when I swallow my medicine properly. But when I have turmoil, deadline after deadline, waking up early, you're sleeping late, you're not eating well, I fail to swallow medicine. So I talk about this because I know I'm not alone. There are so many people who are going through the similar thing. So normalizing it and telling people about it makes them realize that no, you're not alone. You're also struggling with swallowing medicine. It's okay. And this thing does not discriminate with age or whatever, or skin color. Our challenges are all the same, provided you're in the same. Yes, a challenge is a challenge.
Wow, I like that you share that because I'm sure somebody somewhere, they can relate. One to the pain, to the the challenges, and yes, go on girl, yep, that one, you know, that kind of thing. And again, when we talk about that, we realize that you meet someone and we don't know what they are really carrying with themselves. But then you see what they are doing and you're like inspired by the fact that, wow, with all this, they're able to do this. Maybe that can also be an encouragement for someone out there.
Yes, recently I was talking to an OB of mine, and he told me, I was like, oh my God, I'm amazed by how much you're doing. It's unbelievable. And then I stopped and realized in that moment that it's not about what I am doing. It's because I am HIV positive and I am doing all of that. So for me that means, it goes to say that people who are living with HIV are not expected to accomplish a lot.
Can you imagine that?
Yes, it's a pity. People don't expect you to go far in life. They don't expect you to probably become the next president of a country. They don't expect you to achieve anything. They expect that you're going to live the bare minimum life. Be a mother, have a degree, a decent job, and call it a life. So I think what I'm basically doing is called breaking barriers and perceptions. Exactly. I'm trying to, and what keeps me, perceptions. And what keeps me going is that pain I still carry within me. I tend to feel that this pain, like people expect very little from people living with HIV. So you might as well give them a run for their money and show them that, no, my dear, HIV is just a tiny virus living in my bloodstream. I mean, I could say 100 people, mention 100 people who are HIV negative, but have nothing to show for the life they've lived. They have nothing. They cannot point at this and say, oh, I invented this, I innovated this, you see? So I want to change that perspective of it has to be, I have to be HIV negative to achieve a lot, or because you're HIV positive, you can't achieve this or achieve that. And also we have people, I believe there are people who are living with HIV that have not disclosed, that are doing amazing things, but they're like, no, me, I'll never come out. I cannot handle that.
The heat, the pressure, the stigma.
I know,
Wow. Tell us about that safe place that you've created for the nature, the advocacy, that the passion that leads you to that place.
Yes. So when I came out and started talking about HIV and all of that, oh wow, nobody prepared me for what I was going to encounter. I remember receiving phone calls for a whole week back to back. And I remember being warned that I have to keep my phones charged 24/7. My goodness. For some reason, everybody who saw me talk about HIV expected that I had the antidote to their problem. And I understood where they were coming from because they resonated with me. They resonated with my story. They know there are people who are struggling out there in line with HIV, but they're like, I have no person who is speaking about my problem, so I might as well keep quiet with my problem. Yes. So now when they saw Ruth come out, they were like, So I started getting so many requests, people having challenges with this, with that, even things I did not know existed. So then that's when I realized that I think now I have to find an organized way to do my craft. And I remember it took me about 1 year to brainstorm and accept and think about if I really wanted to move down this journey or to just, end it here. So that was during lockdown. By the time the lockdown had ended, I had decided that yes, I'm going to move this journey. It's going to be tough, but I think there's a reason as to why God has put the dream in my head. So I started off, and at first I honestly think I didn't know what I was doing. But now I have gotten the grip of it, and now I understand exactly what I want to do. So I'm trying to motivate young people, both who are living with HIV and those who are not living with it, because at the end of the day, we have people who are living negatively who end up marrying people who are living positively. So you might as well sensitize the negative community as well and let them know, or teach them how to accept people who are living positively. So the idea is to talk about HIV as much as possible in different ways to break myths and misconceptions. For instance, I know people who would say that, oh, ARVs make people skinny. I'm telling you, the people who think I'm slender because I'm on ARVs.
The perception.
Because they've never seen me at my best when I had excess weight. So the assumption is, no, it's because she's on ARVs that she's now skinny. And then I also know people who would tell you that she's fat because she's on ARVs.
Oh dear.
I've also had perceptions that she cannot give birth because she's on ARVs. She became infertile because of ARVs. My goodness, we have quite a number of perceptions out there. So I take advantage of opportunities in schools when I'm asked to go speak in schools, to speak to university students. I tend to organize online virtual sessions where I talk about these issues, and that's where I try to break these myths and misconceptions. And also, some of the questions you shared with me, I saw about vulnerability. I use that a lot to my advantage to show people that, by the way, the problem you're struggling with, even me, I have. So there's nothing to be ashamed about it. You're broke, even me, I am broke. Don't worry, let's be broke. Let's be broke together. So there are people, who call you and you're like, today I don't have transport to go pick my ARVs. So you send. So basically, it's I'm trying to show them that this thing, by the way, is no more. So we might as well just own up to it. And then there's a bunch of people who are struggling to accept that I'm HIV positive and it's not going to change. There was also a bunch of those people, and they struggle a lot with swallowing medication because they're in denial.
So all these are people that you have coming through at that space.
Exactly.
Is it a physical space, online?
Currently, it's a virtual space, and I get to organize events or projects every once in a while, like blood drives. I organize, it's just that right now I'm a bit busy, so I've cut down on some of these things, but you'll find me mostly participating in medical camps, talking to doctors and nurses, and you know, sharing with them what our expectations are from them. Then sometimes you find me talking to you find me in the slums, in the ghetto. You find me in Katanga doing condom sensitization. You find me in Soweto. You know all the slums, guys. You find me talking to young girls about teenage pregnancies, terminating them, and things like that. You'll find me talking to corporates in Rotary clubs, where I teach them that, by the way, mental health is like this, and if you're this, you are that. So I am doing this at a level I can handle because I'm engaged academically. But once I go back full swing, it will be a physical space.
Blow up.
I'm telling you.
It will blow up. It's amazing work. I think most of the time you're always looking for a leader in a certain space, someone to lead us to a certain, and you're doing well.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, when you talk about transforming pain into purpose, meet Ruth Terry. Amazing work. What would you speak to that one person that literally, they're also listening to you, thinking they can relate with the story, but man, I don't have the courage to, I don't have the courage that you have. So what do you want me to do? Should I sit back and wait for a miracle to pull me out? But then I want to do something about it. It may not be just be HIV, could be a personal pain that they have, and then they're stuck in isolation, like you say. Because definitely, I like that you've shared that coming out means, can you take the hit? Can you take the hit? Just encourage someone that really may have.
So,
like that strength that you have within you, which we said was resilience. Because yes, the moment when you opened up, that's the attack, all that you had to deal with. Look at you.
Oh, I'll never forget a gentleman.
Yes.
In Uganda now, who came during an interview like this one and put a very heavy comment under the interviewer asked me, "Ono amkolachi?" And my first perception was, why would you think that nachi namkola? You know, there are people who can hate you because you're HIV positive.
Wow.
Because you just don't level up with their beauty standards. So first of all, if you're living with HIV, you need to understand that this world does not care about you.
Oh dear.
The person who cares about you is the person who is living with HIV. Nganzi. And when I say don't care about you, I don't mean like they hate you. No. But they are not concerned with what you do, what you really do with your life.
Is it that they don't care or don't understand?
So for me, I would say that one of the reasons as to why I push so hard to still remain the Ruth I am is that I carry with me fear of failure. Bananda Batanti have failed. Me, Nam Devi Ruth, God forbid.
So you've also turned that into a positive thing, like a fuel.
Yes, so that is my fuel. The pain I carry with me from my past is also fuel. Knowing that there are a bunch of people who don't expect me to succeed in this life, that is my fuel. Find your fuel. You who is living with HIV, find your fuel. When I say people don't care about you, I don't mean it in a bad way that they're not going to give you attention. What I'm saying is they do not really care if you succeed or you fail. For them, the expectation of you is that get over it. It's just HIV. Get up and what? Move.
Wow.
So you need to find a way to pick yourself up. There are stages of grieving. After you go through all those stages of grieving, there is depression, denial, there is acceptance, which is the last one. There are 5. I've just mentioned a few randomly. Once you finally get to acceptance, where I am, you will care less what people think of you. People's opinion will not define you. So a healing process, I'm not going to tell you that it takes 1 year. Healing process takes a while. I discovered that I was living with HIV in I think 2007. I accepted my HIV status in 2020, 2019 there. So when I say that it's a journey, I don't want you to think that you're going to wake up one morning and snap a finger and now you're strong like Ruth until you bypass somebody and they tell you cover your legs, we don't want to see your scars, and then you're back to square one. Because I'm telling you, I've experienced these comments. You have too many scars on your legs, you cover them, you don't want to see them. Person doesn't even know why you have scars, but they felt that that comment was necessary. So I'm telling you this because you're in a ring and you have to fight your own self. You have to learn how to fight your own demons. I am not telling you how to grieve. I am simply letting you know that take your time. It's a healing journey, it's a healing process. By the way, cry as much as you need to, because crying is healing. Do not be lied to. That crying is what? Weakness. It is healing. That process you go through. I remember when I just started sharing my story, I used to cry on set. They would interview me and I cry. I remember my therapist one time told me that you're crying because you have never gotten an opportunity to tell the world what you went through. So now you're talking about it and it feels like pain of yesterday. And then I remember she encouraged me that you have to keep talking about your story such that it helps you to heal.
To heal, yeah.
So the more I did it, the more I started to heal and heal. And then that's why you see some interviews and I'm not crying at all. And then some interviews I'm like, oh God, I can't believe this happened to me. So crying is part of healing. Take advantage of it. If you feel like crying, don't act like you're normal. And then if you fail to find means of healing, you might be tempted to try and do drugs, to try and do shisha, those things, alcohol, to soothe the pain, to try and heal forcefully. That stuff is not healthy and it doesn't work with your ARVs. So please find a way to go through it. Find somebody you genuinely feel you can rely on for emotional support, and just know that it's a certain period you're in. There's going to be a time where you're completely strong and healed and it doesn't even bother you.
Wow, wow, wow. It's been a very much pleasure hosting you at Fat Talks. I want to have you again.
Thank you.
In the interest of time, my God. Ladies and gentlemen, what a story, what a keynote speaker in the house. I hope you've been inspired. I hope your level of awareness in terms of people living, the 39.9 million people globally living with HIV has heightened. But also to celebrate the people that are living with HIV and knowing that they are just people just like you and I. For example, our guest speaker today, Madam Ruth Elizabeth Namutebi, the founding executive director, Daria Yaitesi Safe Space. That's just a snippet of who she is and what she's accomplished and achieved. So what are you or your neighbor doing with your life? Thank you, Ruth,
for so much.
Having acknowledged our invitation and for being here. And to you, our viewers, please share your comment on the YouTube channel, and also let's support the ongoing HIV awareness commemoration period of December by touching someone or supporting someone that you know, and then we'll celebrate together. You never know, it could be you or I next time, I've been your host, Evelyn Osime. See you again one other Thursday. It's Fat Talks.